Welcome everyone to our very first Let's Talk for 2024. Happy New Year. It's January 9th, 2024. My name is George Ferrari and I serve as CEO of your community foundation. These Let's Talks are opportunity for us to learn more about what's going on in the mission-driven sector. Gloria Kwaku, our Chief Equity and Community Engagement Officer, puts these together, and we're always happy and excited when we have guests to present information for people to learn more about issues within our sector. And today we have the great fortune of having Shasta Savage, who is at the Human Service Coalition as Director of Leadership Development and Consulting Services. The Human Services Coalition is part of our local funders group, and we get to meet every other week with local funders to learn from each other and to develop collaborative solutions to some of the challenges we have in our community. So we're very excited, Shasta, that you're with us. As we get people settled in, we'll get started in a minute or two. We will have time for questions. Those can come in the chat, and those will be managed by Gloria as part of our meeting today. We have archives of previous Let's Talks on our website, along with a beginning and development calendar of 2024 of all sorts of activities and events we have planned for the new year. If you have ideas about topics and or speakers that you'd like to come to a Let's Talk, please let Gloria know. Contact her by email at ckwaku@cftompkins.org. We'll get started in just a minute when Gloria tells me that everyone in the waiting room is in. It's not even 12 o'clock yet. Getting started early. That's great. And as you join us, if you wanted to, in your name, if you want to put your organization as well, that could help Shasta see who's joining us by organization. You probably know lots of people already on the Zoom, Shasta, but it's helpful to understand which organizations are represented as well.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Human Service Coalition does a lot of work in our community, and we are fortunate indeed to have an organization that many other communities don't have around community planning, health planning, 211, capacity building, and they also guide some funding decisions made by the city and the county as well. So it's a nice collection of responsibilities the Human Service Coalition adds to our community in wonderful ways. I see lots of folks entering. As you enter, if you would like to keep yourself on mute, that helps avoid background noises. That's very useful. Thank you for doing that. And we'll get started in just a minute or two. These meetings typically are about half an hour, 45 minutes. We're going to go a little longer here, but jump on and off as you need. And Shasta's bringing us news about a new approach and project around capacity building called the Impact Network. You can learn a lot more about that. People are still getting settled in. We'll start the formal part of our program in just a moment. We do record these, so you need to know that. And we also have archives of previous Let's Talks on our website. And this archive recording, as well as Shasta's PowerPoint presentation, will be made available on our website at cftompkins.org. Gloria, how we're doing? We still have people in the waiting room coming in?
Right now we are good to go.
Okay, so let's start our first Let's Talk for 2024. Again, we'd like to very much warmly welcome Shasta Savage, who works in the Human Services Coalition as their Director of Leadership Development and Consulting Services, is instrumentally involved in the Impact Network, and is part of our local funders group as well. So Shasta, take it away. We're very happy and excited that you're here to be with us today.
Thanks, George. Thanks, Gloria. Happy to be here. So feel free to interrupt at any point in time if anyone has any questions. I'm happy to pause, go back. This is for everyone here. So yeah, feel free to connect as well. And if you're eating lunch, don't hesitate to turn off your camera if you prefer. Just show up as you are. All right. All right, is my screen showing okay?
Yep.
Great. All right, so we're going to talk capacity building, which is incredibly broad. So that's why I say if you have questions, please feel free to ask them. Capacity building is really, before I begin, it's really specifically tailored to nonprofit organizations, leadership, staff, right? So it's so nuanced because of different organizations and their missions. Things that support capacity are incredibly varied and depend on who's in the organization, who the organization is serving, how the organization is run, what is changing in the community, etc. So we'll talk a little bit about that today. So the way that I sort of look at capacity building is this sort of not hierarchy necessarily, but sort of like a pyramid, right? So you need a strong foundation to get to the growth and stability, right? So what does your strategy look like? What is your mission? What is really important for an organization to actually carry out its mission, right? So you need staff, potentially, right? Or volunteers, a board for nonprofits, good governance at the very least, right? And then from there, moving up to organizational efficiency and effectiveness. So starting to think through things such as, more strategic planning. Maybe you've got a great staff, but you're hoping to, you know, support a project in having better outcomes for clients that you're serving, right? But without that sort of baseline understanding of the mission, understanding what your mission critical capabilities and needs are, can't really get to that sort of shifting into that organizational efficiency and effectiveness piece, right? You can't make programs better until the program is built, right? Or at least thought of. So from there, we can get organizations to, or you can get your organization to financial resilience, right? So through things like fundraising, et cetera. If you're not sure of the mission, if you're not sure what your organization needs as far as mission critical capabilities, if you're not sure how to get more efficient or effective, then things like fundraising can kind of fall by the wayside, right? So until you have this sort of baseline foundation, then you really can't get to these other sort of higher up goals. So things like growth and stability, really starting to hone in on the smaller pieces of the mission. So I sort of think about this like building a house. Again, you've got to have the plans, start with the foundation, then put up the walls, eventually the roof, and then you maintain, right? So to me, that's how building capacity or capacity building sort of rings true in my brain. Any questions about sort of the broad, what does that look like? What are you talking about? I'm really lost kind of questions or statements about capacity building. Feel free to chime in. Allie, did you have something?
I did. I was trying to like really raise my hand, like instead of just blurting it out. So the question about, financial resilience is the not necessarily the funds needed to start it, right? So this, when you're saying financial resilience, this isn't startup funding. This is keeping it moving forward, planning for the future, building those nest eggs, getting your reserves built up. So you're still gonna need financial building if you're using the house analogy, and you still need to have your money even at stage one. So how would you talk about that?
Absolutely, you're right, Allie. So in thinking about financial resilience, we're going to be thinking about things such as diverse revenue streams, right? So rather than just being completely grant funded, maybe you get some revenue from program fees or other types of income generative programs and things like that, right? So you're right, exactly. Taking a look at what the structure of the financial nest egg, if you will, right, looks like, and building out from there. Now, when we think about mission critical capabilities, right, we've got to start somewhere as far as finances go. So that I would say would be in that number 2 section with the mission critical, right? You've got to have something to build from for sure. Yep. All right. So here is a pretty good model actually of sort of what effective capacity building might look like. So when we think capacity building, we can think about this in various different ways, right? We can talk about capacity building within leadership, right? So one individual human being, maybe, you know, I've definitely said before in my life, I just don't have the capacity, right? I'm sure we've all been there before, right? What does that mean, right? For an individual, it's way different than an organization or a community, et cetera. So we think about, when thinking about capacity, I'll invite you to just think in terms of things such as adaptive capacity, leadership capacity, technical capacity, management capacity, but also weighing those types of capacity against things such as time, right? What's going on in the world? What resources are actually available in our community and more broadly? What types of shifts are happening in our economy, right? What political things are going on that might be impacting capacity. So really considering sort of an ecological systems model of capacity building, right? Because it doesn't happen in a vacuum. If you as a leader don't have the capacity to say, get to, you know, that growth and sustainability piece, right? We come back to number 1. What is the mission? Where do we go from here? What is our baseline? Where is our foundation, right? And if the leader is all the way in this growth and stability phase, but our staff members are maybe just trying to staying afloat, right? Trying to engage in mission critical capabilities, we've got to reassess. So what's going on? Maybe we need to engage in more staff training. Maybe that could be a type of capacity building that we support. Maybe it's, you know, the organization hasn't engaged with any type of strategic planning in a very long time, and it would be helpful for staff to kind of see the direction of the organization, right? So this can take form in many different ways. So that's when I say that capacity building is broad, it really is, but it's also very specific to the organization, right? So we'll get a little bit into that in just a moment here. So essentially at the Human Services Coalition, and particularly what I do is exactly this, right? So I support organizations in not only building capacity, but also in figuring out what types of capacity building that they might be needing, and then aligning them with correct supports, working very closely with organizations to get what they're needing, right? So the way that we do this is, as George had mentioned before, right? Capacity planning. We figure out what the needs are of the entire sector, health and human services organizations across Tompkins County. We figure out, you know, okay, great. So here are the needs. How do we meet those needs? How do we support everyone in meeting those needs? And then from there, we, depending on what the needs are, we might be generating different programs or initiatives to support nonprofit capacity building. Right. So what are the needs? So the way in which we evaluate at Human Services Coalition the needs of the nonprofit organizations across Tompkins County and some in Cortland County as well are through these 5 ways. So program evaluations and assessments. If you have been to our workshops, any of them, you definitely know, I'm sure, the green piece of paper that you see at the end of the workshop series. We ask for your feedback every single time. We want to make sure that we are supporting everyone and getting what they are needing. When things are happening in our community or political landscape, that are impacting BIPOC folks, and specifically organizations that serve BIPOC folks and that are BIPOC led. We will then engage with initiatives that are supporting leaders of color, for example. Our forums are places where, or spaces, excuse me, where folks can come together and engage around various topics that are relevant to our community in real time. So we can get some feedback from there as well. And then, of course, with our consulting engagements, so I'll go into organizations, Cindy will go into organizations as well and connect with folks there and really kind of get a more in-depth look at what is happening in an organization and how to best support organizations. Community agencies in Tompkins County, we do a semi-annual check-in with 20 HSC funded agencies where we gain specific feedback about what their capacity needs might be, and we provide them with support as we can. As well as our executive exchange. If you are an executive director and you do not know of executive exchange, please, please, please contact me. We will get you connected with executive exchange. It's awesome. It's a space where directors across the county can come together and connect with one another, share ideas, talk about best practices, and really collaborate in a way that I have never seen in other communities. So it's really a beautiful not organization, but group that you can connect with in real time, in real ways, and with real resources. We also do engage with annual and ongoing feedback from Executive Exchange. We've got consultant partners. We have a network of about 50 plus consultants in the local and regional space where we connect with them around things like human resources support, diversity, equity, and inclusion, etc. So from there, we can determine trends, outcomes, and continued opportunities for engagement with organizations. And finally, we have HSC planning. So this includes things such as capacity needs assessments. I'm just going to shamelessly plug throughout this entire presentation. We do offer a salary and benefits survey, so stay tuned. That may be coming out here soon. We also offer other different types of surveys where, we're asking organizations, what is it that you need so that we can help you get what you need? So if you see, my name pop up or, someone from HSC and they're asking you to fill out a survey, if you have the time, please do fill it out. It does support capacity building in a variety of different ways. The better we can understand what organizations and leadership is needing and staff, right, as well as the clients that we're serving, then the better we can support you in carrying out your missions.
Shasta, this is George. George, I had a quick question. I had some memory of, in addition to Executive Exchange, I thought you had other kind of peer learning groups. There's FINS, at least for financial directors, and maybe volunteer managers, or there's other kind of gatherings of peer groups to co-learn from each other too, right?
Absolutely, George, thank you for that. Yes, we offer a board chair roundtable quarterly. So if you are on a board or thinking of joining a board, please connect with the board chair roundtable that's offered. Reach out to me if you'd like to be connected with other board chairs. And FINS, we are looking to get back online. It sort of paused with the pandemic, but we're hoping to get that online as well. That's correct. Yep. Thanks, George.
I have a question related to that. Is there a program coordinator level option? I know that there's a lot of people who do programs, and we seem that sometimes we feel like we're inventing the wheel in our own programming when we could share and collaborate more. So, a program coordinator or a program affinity group is a question.
Allie, thank you so much. So yes, no, there's not, is the answer to your question, the short answer. But the longer answer is we are very aware that this does not exist. So one of the ways in which I'm looking to support organizations, HSC is looking to support organizations is by, providing, again, these types of programs, affinity groups, et cetera, initiatives as well. So we do have, starting on January 30th, and I can send this information out to everyone, we do have a new managers and emerging leaders workshop series that is coming online. I would suggest that if you have any sort of program coordinator folks or people kind of in that director sort of role who are not executive directors, but are looking to gain more skills to connect them with that series in some way, shape, or form. Just a quick note that we are offering a discount of $20 on the whole series. So if you sign up or have staff sign up for all four, then they will receive a $20 discount. You can sign up for them individually as well, depending on the skills that you are looking to learn. But, you know, this is one way in which we can gain feedback from this particular, you know, type of population so that we can really hone in on what folks are needing right now. So we are working on it. You're ahead of the game. Yeah. So let me just go ahead and send this in the chat for anyone who's interested in that. Oh, look at that. Oh my goodness, everyone's on it. Look at you, Community Foundation. Thank you. And Cindy is on here as well. Lovely. All right. So moving forward, you know, I've referenced the data collection that we do with everything that we offer here at HSC. So in 2022 and 2023, we compiled data for the after each workshop. And this is what we found, right? So we ask folks, what additional support do you need to use what you've learned? So even if you have the information, right, you may not be able to apply what you've learned. So we ask, what do you need? So 40% of folks who attended our trainings said they needed no additional support. They were good to go. The workshops sufficed and they were ready to get the skills rolling in their organizations. 60% of folks who attended our workshops said that they needed additional support, right? And this showed up by way of training, resources, individual consulting for their organizations to be more tailored, follow up with someone from HSC, more support by leadership or with their teams, etc., or just practicing skills. So we're very aware of, again, these needs that we are seeing in the community, and we work really diligently to try to support organizations in getting these needs met, right? So it's, again, one thing to have the information, it's another thing to be able to put that into practice. So based on the assessments and evaluations that we engaged with in 2022 and 2023, some identified topic areas that we had noted here are DEI, staff development. Allie, that speaks to what you were asking about. Governance, leadership and management capacity, well-being, strategic and project management, financial capacity, administrative support, and sector-wide advocacy, right? So this goes, you know, small to large, large to small, everything in between. Folks are needing support in these areas. So we're very aware of this. And when we do our capacity building assessments, when we learn this information, when we find out what the needs are and how they've shifted, then we, again, work to either engage folks through executive exchange or other affinity groups, through connecting folks with workshops, or connecting organizations with individual consultants as well. Any questions, thoughts, comments, concerns? Yeah, Jan? Hope you're muted. You're muted, Jan.
Sorry about that. The HSC used to have more staff development type workshops. I thought that that an agency could pay to send them to. It might be a person that needed to know ethics and boundaries or things like that. I'm not seeing those as often. Have you changed the way you look at those and plan those? I'm wondering.
So as far as supporting staff development in particular, so the short answer to your question is I'm not sure. So I've been here for 7 months, and I'm working my hardest to make sure that I'm offering what folks are wanting in this moment. But that is great feedback, right? So it's good to hear that that was something that was working. And I would suggest that if there is something that's working, let us know, right? Whether that's sending a quick email, coming to executive exchange and voicing that, any way in which you can engage with HSC to let us know that that is something that's working, or that you would like to see again, I would highly, highly suggest, and we can work toward getting that reinstated.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions from folks? All right. So, talked a little bit about this. Could talk about it all day. I love what I do. How does HSC meet the needs? So, sorry, this is not a lovely slide, but we're going to work with it. So, when we engaged with, or excuse me, when we did our most recent needs assessment, we were excited to see that we do all of these lovely things well. We also learned again what the needs of the organizations in Tompkins County are. So if you would like to engage, feel free to head to slido.com and enter the code 3657612. And I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment so I can pull up a different screen.
Shasta, can you put that code again in the chat for us?
Absolutely. Let me make sure I have the right one. Bear with me a moment. Okay, here we go. Here is slido.com. And it is. All right, so the question is, what do you wish you had more time to prioritize, work on, or improve? And now we'll keep it fun and light, but also, feel free to be honest and open, right? So this is anonymous. This can be something that's personal. This can be something that's professional. And if when you put something into this word cloud, you would like to elaborate on what you mean, feel free to do that. You can also enter more than one thing that you wish you had time to prioritize. Fundraising got really big all of a sudden. As did board engagement. This is all seeming like it's on the along the same lines of what we're seeing in a lot of different evaluations that we have supported. So what I'm seeing here, keep entering things as they come up for you. So what I'm seeing here is folks want to connect with other people, think more about future trajectory of organizations or their own selves, right, as leaders. Engage in conversations and receive other types of resources and skills, around fundraising and board development. And to become more efficient in things such as project management, supporting the mission, and staff as well. That's the big picture that I'm getting here. That's what folks wish they had more time for. So I'll stop sharing once more. Ooh, maybe. There we go. And I'll ask a quick question if anyone wants to chime in. So let's say tomorrow you had time all of a sudden to prioritize, work on, or improve some of the things that you have shared, what would that look like? What resources might you need? What resources might you have, I should say.
I think most of it is time, just having the time. That's the resource I need.
Yeah.
And the knowledge that the things that we leave undone in operations or at the office, like out here, will maintain and be fine. Not that they're not. I mean, everyone's doing a great job, but you have to be able to step away from that and knowing that it's in good hands. So you have to have your house in order to step into the different zone. And then you would need the contacts to reach out to do it together, because you don't want to do it alone. Like, you don't want the time to think, but I would love to be able to think with other leaders who are in the same boat so that we can do it together and share ideas. So it's my time and the time of others who also then have the support of their operations to grow it.
So building a strong foundation so that you have the time to collaborate so that you have more time. Right. I'm also hearing uninterrupted time. Right. Work-life balance, maybe even. I'm gonna throw that in there. No one said that. That's an inference. Sorry. All right. So, I'll invite you to continue to think about this, right? What does it look like? If everything was working as perfectly as it possibly could in your organization, what does it look like? What might you need? How might you get that? And Allie sort of, connected with that as well, as did Melissa, right? Like, connecting with other folks to support your own internal capacity as a leader, and to, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We have so many wonderful and brilliant folks that are in our organizations, our nonprofit organizations in Tompkins County. Connecting with them can save so much time, so many resources, right? It can connect you to things like Slido. Somebody in the chat mentioned that they are like forever changed by Slido now, right? Someone introduced me to Slido. Now I'm introducing it to you all in case you haven't connected with it. But it's these types of connections, right? Which was mentioned as well in the word cloud, right? That support capacity as well. Even if we think we only have time for 5 minutes in a meeting, that might be the 5 minutes that you need. So just wanting to remind folks of that as well. All right. Let me share my screen again. All right, back at it. So here's how we build capacity at HSC, right? And when I say build capacity, not only do we attempt to do this internally, but we, again, also support organizations externally. So HSC, I'm a local, and ever since I can remember, I've always known of Human Services Coalition supporting other folks. It's amazing. Until I made the slide, I didn't quite even understand exactly how we did that. I knew that we did it in many different ways, but this is how, right? And this is only one portion of how HSC supports capacity building, right? We also have, our housing space, our health planning space as well, right? So this is leadership development only at HSC, right? So we have our affinity groups, as we've spoken to. Of course, I've mentioned briefly consulting. We also offer coaching as well, and we have coaches in our professional network. We get people together for our forums, right? Speaking of, another shameless plug, we have a forum coming up tomorrow. It is from 10 to noon, and it is at the library. We will have coffee. Please come. It is the community will be connecting with local experts regarding mental health equity and what that looks like in our community, best practices and things like that. Also, if you have ideas for things like forums that you want to connect with other leaders on, feel free to send them my way, and I'm happy to put together a group of folks who can connect with best practices, data, things like that. Which leads me to data collection and analysis. We've talked quite a bit about that. Forums as well. Resource sharing and development. If anyone has a question about where to go to get a resource, send me a quick email. I will compile a list of 5 to 10 resources for you and send them your way. It's what I do. It's part of my job. You don't have to do it. I'm supporting you in doing that to give you a little bit of time, even if it's a little bit of time back in your day, even if it's 5 minutes. We had an organization who is undergoing a capital improvement project, and there was a grant that came out, and I, connected with the grant. But had I not been connected this person with the grant, excuse me, had I not been in communication with this person about what they're going through in their organization, what they're needing, I wouldn't have known to even send that resource to that person, right? So this is where connecting with folks and being honest and open about what your organization is going through is supportive. Yes. So HSC also offers technical assistance, again, through consulting and coaching. And then the workshop series. But one of the pieces that I just want to pause and highlight for a moment is this sector and systems level learning. I cannot emphasize this enough. When we send out surveys, again, please fill them out. This is supporting us and supporting you. It helps us to learn what is happening locally in our system, and we can compare that to other communities that are similar size, et cetera, to ours. And then we can really understand more completely what is happening in our community and support in ways that make sense for us here. Questions at all? That was kind of a lot. All right.
So I'm hearing you say that you do a lot of stuff to support all of us, and you want to do as much as you can, which is fabulous. I love HSC and you guys. You are asking us to not be shy and come forward with, I could really use a this or a that or a something around this, so that at least you're aware. So, like, we might not know it right now, but you're asking us to be okay asking for the things that we think about.
Yes. Absolutely. And to be okay with not knowing what you need too sometimes, right? And just connecting to figure that out, maybe, or to get closer to figuring that out. Yeah. Excellent. I'm going to gloss over this slide because we've talked about it a lot, but this is another way in which HSC serves. So a little bit more data, and then I've got 5 minutes, I'm very aware. We'll go into talking about the Impact Network. So with our data from our 2022-23 workshop series, we put on 20 workshops. Just to mention, HSC workshops are offered at about 50% of the cost of other popular area workshops. We do also offer scholarships for our workshops. So if ever there's a time that you want to send staff and you're not able to send as many as you'd like, right, feel free to just reach out to us, and we'll get you set up with a scholarship. No issues, no questions, no judgment. As well as our consulting services, we supported in 2022-23, 29 organizations with over 72 hours of consulting. Now, just to mention, this is internal HSC consulting. This is myself, other folks in the organization going into organizations and supporting them. This is not including any connections with our local consulting network. So this is not including any of those organizations or hours that other external consultants, external to HSC consultants supported. Another quick note is that HSC consulting fees are offered at 54% less than the 2023 fair market rate for consulting. So if you are having trouble affording consulting, you're not sure how you're going to do that, feel free to reach out. Let's have these open and honest conversations. I always want to have conversations that are confidential, but if I can understand where your organization is and where you're hoping to go, then I can support you in getting to that space. These are some of the special initiatives that have come out of our data that we've collected in the past couple of few years. So we supported COVID consulting for 20 organizations to support resilience after through the pandemic, I will say. We also, shameless plug again, we have something called the Get Out of Town Fund. If you have not connected with the Get Out of Town Fund, please do it. We have funds remaining, which will continue through 2024. This is financial assistance for conferences, seminars, workshops, trainings that are happening outside of Tompkins County. All you do is you apply for funding. You can get up to $1,200 per person. I think for 2 people maximum, for travel fees, conference fees, etc. You go out, get the information you need, come back and apply what you've learned in your organization. Pretty straightforward. If you have questions, feel free to reach out as well. All right, in my 2 minutes, and then we have tons of time for questions. We're going to connect about the Impact Network. So the Impact Network, does anyone have any questions before I move forward? Really quick. All right. We're doing great. So the Impact Network is a strategic foundational approach to capacity building. What is it? So it's something that kind of already exists a little bit, but it's a little bit more strategic. So what we are supporting in 2024 at HSC is financial support for consulting and technical assistance. So not only will organizations receive up to $3,000 per organization per year to receive technical assistance and consulting services, there will also be coaching through the change process. So if you're saying, wow, this is a large change, I know I want to do it, but I'm not sure how I'm going to get there, we will connect you with a coach as well and support those fees as we can, right? To support staff in getting them through the change process, whatever change it is that your organization is hoping to make. Additionally, there will be start to finish project support. So I will be available to folks to connect with if you need resources. I'll reach out to you and say, hey, how is everything going? Do you need additional services, additional support, etc.? So this is a really kind of a wraparound project, including funding for technical assistance, coaching through the process. We are also offering optional evidence-based assessments so you can get a fuller picture of your organization if you're hoping to gain that perspective as well. And then the other piece to the Impact Network is data collection and sharing, right? So again, this is a very kind of seamless way to gain information from organizations in a way that keeps it confidential, more private. Of course, sharing more specifically if organizations are interested in doing so. But ultimately, it can help folks like funders, folks like policymakers, et cetera, to gain an understanding of what nonprofit organizations across Tompkins County are needing, right? What our capacity is, where that stands. And then additionally, it's going to support education for our local trainers, consultants, and coaches. So as new needs arise, then we'll be able to connect the consultants, coaches, and trainers with tools that they need to build their capacity. So it's not just supporting, leadership, it's supporting leadership, staff, or organizations as a whole, boards, trainers, coaches, consultants, the community, funders, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're really trying to be as holistic as we possibly can in providing supports and information sharing here. And this is kind of how it'll work. More information for this to come. This will be launched in March, so you can be on the lookout for information from me on the Impact Network. But you'll apply. We will have a confidential discussion to determine specific needs. There will be an option for an organizational assessment, which is known as the ICAP. So we'll be offering that to organizations if they would like to partake in that option. And then from there, targeted capacity building support with multi-level connection. So what is it that your organization's needing, right? Back to the question of how do you get where you're going? What's standing in the way? What, right? We'll talk about that, and then we'll support you in getting there with coaching through the change process as well. And then additionally, we'll have some post-engagement resources and support. So I'm not going anywhere. So feel free to reach out. I will be reaching out as I come across new resources. I'll be sharing those as well and seeing if you need additional consulting or other support. So this is just a quick example. I can leave this up as we go into questions because I know that I'm over time. Just thinking about some of the processes that you might be engaging with to support your capacity as far as consulting and technical assistance might go.
Thank you, Shasta. That's a lot of information. And again, I'll just reiterate what I said earlier. We are fortunate in this community to have the Human Service Coalition and the work that you're doing. We'll turn over to Gloria now, who's going to manage questions and conversation from those questions.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and Happy New Year. I don't think anyone said Happy New Year yet. Happy New Year to everyone. Shasta, thank you so much again. We're just gonna get right into the questions. So ahead of time, a few of you wrote questions, and I'm just gonna go ahead and read them off verbatim. And Shasta, if you feel like we have covered this already, you can just say we've covered this. Also, the recording will be available on our website as well as the PowerPoint. So those are two resources that you will have. The first question is, what role do board members play in building capacity? And same question for volunteers.
Very significant ones, I will say. Right. So our organizations are not just our staff or the people that we're serving. It is our entire community, which does include volunteers and board members. So effective governance is key. Effective volunteer management is key as well. And that looks different for different organizations. So I cannot stress enough that each organization is so different from one another, and you all have various nuances that support each of you in carrying out your mission and vision in ways that make sense to you. So what does effective governance look like? Happy to share information about, and I'm sure Cindy, I know you're on the call somewhere. I'm sure you're happy to share information about this as well, but effective governance is pretty straightforward. Generally speaking, as far as what is New York State law, what is important for or necessary for effective governance is what I want to say. And it can take shape in different ways based on organizations, right? If you don't have an ED, an executive director, that's going to look way different than if you have an executive director, right? So huge role. Volunteers, same thing. There can be, oh, go ahead, Cindy, I see you.
No, go ahead. You can finish. I just had one more thing to add when you're done with your thought.
Yeah, I was just going to say volunteers, same thing, right? So volunteers can engage with committees, direct service, etc. So I mean, we're all part of the same community. We're all very important. Go ahead, Cindy.
I was just going to add from what the role of boards and volunteers. This is primarily on the board side. I think one of the very important roles of the board in capacity building is investing in it. The board as the overseeing governance body, strategic planning, long-term thinking entity. How are they thinking about investing in their staff and their volunteers and their own capacity as a governing body to, make a more robust organization to fulfill that mission? It's a good conversation to have with your board when it's budget time.
Thank you, Shasta, and thank you for the question. It was from Victoria. The next question is, they are interested in learning how to track and measure DEI goals. What metrics have you found to be successful?
Yes. So again, I will connect back to the idea that each organization is different. So different metrics are going to look different for different organizations. So the other thing that I want to highlight is that let me say that again. Quantitative data is just as important as qualitative data. So I think that having a balance of both is very important, right? So if you are engaging with DEI initiatives in your organization and you have all of this quantitative data, you've got the numbers, you know what people like, you know what they don't like, that's fine. But how it's impacting folks might not be as clear based on somebody who answers a number 3 on something, right? So really being intentional about how you're using qualitative data is also very important. We want to see not just that initiatives are impacting folks, but how. And we want to understand that so that we can tailor them in ways that make sense for our organizations. Some more kind of broad DEI metrics to pay attention to, I would say, are things like hiring, supporting organizational culture so that you are thinking about things like retention and advancement, right, in your organization. What does that look like? Are folks satisfied with where they're working? Do they feel comfortable coming to work, right? How accessible is your physical space, but also, as far as psychological safety, things like that. What is your leadership style and how is that impacting your staff? Right? What kinds of suppliers are you using for things when you order?
Perfect. Thank you, Shasta. And thank you, Ritza, for the question. The next one is just looking for some guidance. They offered a situation. It says, I work for the Foundation of Light, a spiritual nonprofit that offers classes and events for spiritual expression and development. We are small but growing and need to figure out how to make the leap from 1 to 2 part-time workers, both financially and organizationally. They're looking for any type of guidance. So any nuggets, words of wisdom, anything you can share. This came from Eva in Trumansburg.
Yes, I would say engage with the Impact Network, because we definitely have a consultant who can support that process with you and figure out the best way forward. I would love to offer a specific way in which to support that process, but ultimately without having a conversation with you, I don't feel that I have enough information to do so. But what I will say is that as you're looking to increase staff, right, considering things like what is your overall goal, right? How do you get to where you're going and what does that look like for you? Additionally, what does your budget look like? What are your revenue streams? What is your fundraising? What are your fundraising strengths, right? And I see you're here, Eva, with us today.
Thank you, Shasta. Yeah, I'll definitely reach out to you and continue the conversation, because this is a great just kind of booster. I've been so just in the weeds with everything and really need to look at the bigger picture this year. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can be easy to do, right? We've all been there. You're doing the day-to-day and you're connecting with all the programs and the staff, and then ultimately you're like, wait, zoom out, right? Like what do we need? Where are we going? How do we get there? Right. And so sometimes connecting with other folks can be supportive of that process.
Right. Thank you, Eva, for the question. So going to the chat, it looks like not a lot of questions. Actually, there's one from Jim Grant. I guess looking for assistance in rewriting out-of-date articles and bylaws. Is that something, Shasta, that you guys can help with?
Absolutely, it is. So yes. Yep.
So reach out
Yeah.
to Shasta. Okay. Let's see if there are any other questions. I don't see anything else. Does anyone want to chime in very quickly and has a burning question that they need answered. We have about 9 more minutes, 8 more minutes now. Shasta, do you want to put your email in the chat? That way everyone has it. And then if there is something that does come up, or you want to set up a consultation with Shasta, please feel free to connect with her directly. Or if for whatever reason you want to reach out to me or to George and have a specific question, we are here for you as well. Jim is asking, can you share a little more about the forum tomorrow?
Absolutely. So tomorrow from 10 to noon in the Board Warner Room at the Tompkins County Public Library, we'll be connecting with, I believe it's 4 local experts regarding mental health equity. So what does that look like for folks in experiencing various different situations, holding various different identities, and what steps might we be able to take in Tompkins County or even in our individual organizations to move toward a more equitable mental health system and supports. So yes, this is the forum this January is co-sponsored by our Health Planning Council and the Homeless and Housing Task Force. And we'll have some time as well for folks to connect with one another, to share information about their projects and initiatives as well.
Great, thank you. Thanks so much. Another question coming from Katie Church, our friend from the Youth Farm Project. It says she's worked with the Human Services Coalition the past few months and it's been awesome. We've gotten much needed support, great, wonderful. She highly recommends just calling you, Shasta, and talking about what's going on, even if you're not sure of what you need or don't know a clear solution. And then she says, thanks, Shasta, and Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you, Katie.
Yeah, if you'd like to have coffee anytime, just, we'll get something on the calendar. I'll buy you a coffee and we'll just talk. Like that's the first step to the process. It doesn't have to be anything complicated or, wild, but just figuring out how to get where you're going. Happy to help.
Perfect. Yeah. Thanks, Allie. So lucky to have this amazing supportive organization. Yay. Thanks, Allie. We love Allie over at FoodNet. Well, I think we're going to close out. Thank you so much, everyone, for their questions, and those that submitted questions ahead of time. Shasta, thank you for taking time to be with us and engage with us this afternoon. George, do you want to close us out?
Sure. Again, thanks everyone for connecting and supporting each other. I think, our organization spent a lot of time supporting people we serve, and sometimes we don't take the step back and really understand the community we have here and the great social capital we have among all of us and organizations, funders, and capacity builders supporting each other. And really appreciate the way in which we do that in this community, and that we have a great partner in the Human Service Coalition and all of your programs. And thank you, Shasta, for being with us today. We'll have another Let's Talk in March. That's to be determined, the topic and the speaker and the actual date. So stay tuned, and wishing you a great rest of your day. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care, everyone. Have a great day.